I'm Nic Rohloff. This is Dolphins Today by Chad Sports. And on today's episode, we're going to talk about if the Miami Dolphins are going to make a very smart hire for their special teams coordinator position that is available after they fired Danny Crossman this past weekend. And plus, we'll round out today's show with the Dolphins fans getting potentially unfortunate news depending on how you look on the situation, but I'll let you decide on that. I think it's slightly unfortunate. But let's start with the special teams coordinator search, because the current situation is this. The Dolphins fired Danny Crossman on the weekend and have yet to really address his position, and there hasn't been really any reports about people being interviewed to fill that vacancy on Mike McDaniel's staff. There's been nothing, no reports. But all we know is that there needed to be a change for the Miami Dolphins after they were ranked 31st in the entire NFL, according to Pro Football Focus, in the special teams game. That accounts for kicking, punting, punt coverage, kick returns, punt returns, whole 9 yards. They were terrible this past year, but it's not the first time they were really bad under Mike McDaniel. We'll talk about that in just a second, but make sure you have your notifications turned on because, well, if the Dolphins do end up making a hiring very soon at the special teams coordinator position, we will drop a video about that. So make sure you subscribe, make sure you have your notifications turned on so you don't miss when that news drops. All right, as we get back to talking about the potential search at the special team spot, McDaniel needs to absolutely nail this hire. There is no ifs, there's no ands, there's no buts about it. This is one of the most important things that he needs to do this offseason for him personally. We talk a lot about Chris Grier and addressing some of the roster needs, but on Mike McDaniel's side of thing, he needs to get the special teams coordinator the position filled correctly. Because since McDaniel has taken over as the Dolphins head coach, Miami has been absolutely atrocious in the special teams department. Since 2022, when he took over as head coach, they've been a bottom 4 team in the NFL in special teams every single year. They were the worst in football in 2022. They were 29th in 2023. And then they were the second worst this past season. It has been a very glaring issue for the Miami Dolphins under Mike McDaniel. And I know some people are going to come up here and say, well, it's not the most important thing. He needs to figure out the offense and defense first. It struggled so much. Well, special teams has proved to be such an important aspect of winning culture and doing the little things correctly to get victories. And the Dolphins simply have not been good at that. So who could be a smart hire for the Miami Dolphins that I teased at the top? Well, there's 2 names that I really am looking at. Jeremy Springer, the special teams coordinator currently with the New England Patriots, and then John Fassel, the special teams coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys. These 2 guys are some of the top options, in my opinion, to potentially fill the vacancy for the Miami Dolphins. And we did talk a little bit about Springer earlier on this week, but I want to revisit why I think he would be such a good hire for the Miami Dolphins. And yes, he would have to be let go or replaced by Mike Vrabel, who is the new coach for the New England Patriots. But you wonder if Springer's going to stick around since Vrabel might want to get some of his own guys in the building. But he was the assistant special teams coordinator for the Rams the previous 2 seasons in 2022 and 2023. And when you think about this Patriots special teams unit this past season, you could talk a lot about how bad the Patriots overall team and execution was this past year. But their special teams grade was the second highest in all of the NFL. And this is quite the turnaround as well for New England and Springer to kind of put a little notch on his cap, because the previous 2 seasons in 2022 and 2023, New England was ranked 20th and 27th on the special teams units, which means they went from in the bottom 12, in the bottom 10, to the number 2 special teams unit. So that is quite the overhaul in one season under Jeremy Springer. He took in Joey Sly, a career journeyman kicker, and he had one of his better seasons and was the kicker all 18 weeks for the New England Patriots. Brendan Schooler, who we already knew was a good special teams guy, is an all-pro and a Pro Bowler at the position. Springer elevated that unit from bottom 12 to the top 2. And the reason why I did want to bring him up, and I kind of teased it a little bit earlier, Mike Vrabel, newest head coach for the New England Patriots. He may want to bring in an entire new staff for this group and for this organization. And if he does that, Springer could be looking for another special teams coordinator job. And based on how he performed this past season in New England, I would put him at the very top of the list to be a potential option for the Miami Dolphins. Maybe that's why Miami's taking a slower approach in terms of looking for a new coordinator. Maybe they're waiting to see if any of these guys that are current coordinators but new head coaches coming in could be on the outs and looking for a new position. All right, let me know. We're going to talk about Fassel here in just a second, but who is your top special teams coordinator candidate for the Miami Dolphins? Get down in the comments section and let me know. I know it's hard to really go out there on the limb and drop some names, but let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. All right, let's move over to the current special teams coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys because he is one of the top guys that could be available. And very similar to Jeremy Springer, the reason why he may be available is because his current head coach is gone. That would be Mike McCarthy. Him and the Dallas Cowboys mutually parted ways, if you will. It looks like McCarthy could be a Chicago Bear, but that's neither here nor there for this video. But it could mean Fassel is open to moving around, and he could be an option for the Miami Dolphins. And he has quite the resume in his career on the special teams coordinator side of things. He's been a special teams coordinator since 2008, bouncing around from the Las Vegas Raiders, Oakland Raiders back then, Los Angeles Rams, St. Louis Rams, the Dallas Cowboys, and he was an assistant special teams coach to start his career for the Baltimore Ravens. And he's had success every single step of the way in his coaching career, which makes him someone that could be very ideal and one of the top candidates if he ultimately decides to leave the Dallas Cowboys for Mike McDaniel and the Miami Dolphins. And we're going to talk more about Fassel coming up here in just a second. But make sure you have downloaded Game Time, the #1 ticketing app out there. Game Time is the easiest way to buy your tickets if you're going to a sporting event, a comedy show, concert, theater, any live event in your local area. Game Time is the best way to get your tickets. They have so many great features, one of them being Game Time Picks. That feature filters out the fluff to show you only the great deals on the seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. A couple other features that I really enjoy using. All-in pricing. Toggling that feature shows you the total price of your ticket up front, so you're not getting blindsided by fees at checkout. There's nothing worse than thinking you're buying a ticket for, say, $100, and then when you go to checkout, well, it's actually $150, $160. Yeah, that stinks. They also show you a full panoramic view of your seat in the app before you buy, so you know you're exactly where you're sitting. You're not going to get fooled by a pole in your way, a stanchion, anything like that. So download Game Time today, and when you create an account, use code CHATSPORTS. That gets you $20 off your first purchase. One more time, first purchase only, terms apply, but use code CHATSPORTS when signing up and creating an account to get $20 off your first purchase. What time is it? It is game time. All right, let's get back to Fassel because he is a really good option for the Miami Dolphins. He is widely liked around the league. I mean, this is just not me. This is someone who is very much respected across opposing leagues teams and coaches and organizations as someone who is valued as one of the best special teams coordinators. Why people like him? He's detail driven. He is very high energy. And that's what you need to be a special teams coordinator. And the part that I like the most is how widely regarded he is in terms of his detailed approach to the game, because I think that's something that Miami could use more of on this coaching staff. And Fassel's impact has been second to none since joining the Dallas Cowboys coaching staff. Prior to his arrival, the Cowboys finished in 2019 last in the NFL in kick return average and 31st in both net and gross punting average. And after Fassel's second year with Dallas in 2021, the Cowboys jumped all the way back up to second and in the top 5. His unit is one of the most effective groups in the NFL, had a league-high 3 blocked punts in 2021, which 2 of them were recovered for a touchdown. His unit also has a lot of blocked kicks, 3 punts, 1 PAT. This was all back in 2021 when he was officially taking over as the Cowboys special teams coordinator. 1-2 years in, his kind of scheme, his system was implemented, and you see the dividends it paid for the Dallas Cowboys. And you've seen it continue to work for Dallas. Just look at what they're currently doing on special teams. They have, without a doubt, the best kicker in all of football in Brandon Aubrey. Now, most of that may be on Aubrey and his talent, but it also goes into coaching and the way you block up front to make sure he has the best possible kind of procedure before he gets his foot on the ball. But then you also see the kick returner, Cavante Turpin, come out of nowhere. And now he's one of the top guys in the entire NFL at his position. I think if you brought in Fassel to Miami, you would see an uptick in the usage for Jason Sanders after a good year last season. I think he'd become even better. I think you'd also see Malik Washington as that kick returner and punt returner for Miami take a step up as well in his second year. Fassel would be a very good option in my opinion. I also think Jeremy Springer is a good option as well, the first guy we talked about from the New England Patriots. So before we move over to the unfortunate news for the Miami Dolphins, let me know. Pick a special teams coach for the Dolphins if you had to. Both are still technically employed by their current teams, but could be on the outs with new coaches coming in. Type JS if you want Jeremy Springer. Type BF if you want John Fassel. All right, last thing that we're going to talk about here. Some unfortunate news for the Miami Dolphins. Or, well, it's kind of up in the air. You could take it as positive. You could take it as negative. But either way, what is the news? Well, it has to do with executive Reggie McKenzie for the Miami Dolphins. He is someone who has been in the front office for the Miami Dolphins over the past 3+ seasons, ever since kind of being fired as the Las Vegas Raiders GM. And you might not know who this is, and this is the first time you've ever heard of Reggie McKenzie. Well, he is a senior personnel executive, and he was the GM for the Las Vegas Raiders / Oakland Raiders from 2012 to 2018. The reason why we're talking about him is because he actually had a chance to become the new Tennessee Titans general manager. Tennessee, who fired Rand Carthon earlier this offseason, were looking at McKenzie. And Rossini actually reported over the weekend that McKenzie is considered the lead candidate, in her opinion. And the reason why this would have been important for Miami is because if he ultimately was hired by the Tennessee Titans, it would have given the Dolphins draft picks. Unfortunately, though, for Miami Dolphins fans, Reggie McKenzie did not make it to the second round of interviews. Tennessee interviewed about 5 more candidates for their GM position in a second time. McKenzie did not make that list. And that's why this is good and positive, right? You could look at it in 2 different ways. You can be a half glass full or half glass empty type of guy. If you're a full guy, you're like, well, we actually get to keep Reggie McKenzie. And that's pretty good because he is someone who is valued around this league, former GM, can help out Chris Greer. Those two can bounce back and forth and really talk about what's good and what's bad for the draft, free agency, and the whole 9 yards. But the bad news is that this would have given you 2 second-round or 2 third-round comp picks. So that would have been pretty nice. The Dolphins already have 10 projected picks in this upcoming 2025 NFL draft when you factor in the comp formula with Christian Wilkins, with Robert Hunt, and some other players they lost in free agency like Deshaun Elliott and Brandon Jones. So they're going to have a lot of picks because of the comp picks. But they would have been able to add 2 more, both coming in the 3rd round, by the way, so high-valued comp picks if McKenzie was hired as the Tennessee Titans GM. That doesn't happen, so you can let me know if it's positive or negative thing. They either keep a high-valued executive in the building or they could have had 2 picks. I consider unfortunate because I think it would have been more helpful to get 2 third-round comp picks. But, hey, that's just me. All right, I'll do it for today's show. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel because we're still putting out 2 videos on a daily basis here on the channel. It'll be the #1 spot for news, rumors, and more in this offseason. So hit that sub button for the best Dolphins coverage on YouTube.